Hello friends, I made this for. My name is Lauren, and usually I am a spiritual person who talks about astrology through the tarot as a way to ground us in something physical while looking at something very spiritual in the stars. I'm also an artist, so this is my studio. I'm a Reiki practitioner, tarot reader, and art ritual facilitator, which if you're interested to learn more, I'm going to leave my link tree as always down below. Click the links to see what I'm up to and what I'm all about. But today, sorry, there was some lipstick on my teeth. We good. Today I feel called to share some thoughts and feelings. So this is not going to be a regular video. This is really going to be about really focused on toxic spirituality. If you follow me on Instagram, which will be there as well, at subnormalchild everywhere. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I like to talk about, or TikTok, whatever. You know that I like to talk about toxic spirituality. And one day I will make a video about my reclamation of spirituality and why I have kind of moved from certain things and into different things. And we'll definitely be sharing my story and those reflections. But today I wanted to share talk about a topic that I like to call the honest grifter. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. But before I get into it, I do want to explain what I recently went through that really, I think, peeled back another layer of the toxic spirituality onion for me. And then, of course, this came together after I watched The Deep End, a documentary series that is available on Hulu. That's where I watched it, about Teal Swan. Now, I have heard about Teal Swan through the years quite a bit. I think if you're in the spiritual community, you've at least heard of her. I've never been someone to watch her videos. I have heard her and about her from the peripherals. Recently, she had a not so positive documentary come out about her on Hulu, and I found it really powerful to watch because it really hallmarks, blows up certain concepts in spirituality that are definitely mismanaged by folks all the time, talking about childhood trauma and how we have to deal with it, how we have to deal with certain traumas. There's a lot of things to harp on as far as how she is grifting people, how she's manipulating people, and how she utilizes spiritual jargon to really just exploit folks for money, if I'm being quite frank. I also listened to a Little Bit Culty podcast. They talked about her recently. And also Love and Light Confessionals is another podcast that talks briefly on Teal Swan. I recommend both of those for sure as a deep dive into this subject. But watching this documentary was really powerful for me because it kind of highlighted some things that I experienced recently in the coaching industry. So I am a private practitioner / I work with groups of folks. I teach workshops, art ritual. I have a Patreon where I do monthly rituals with folks using art as a healing modality. And recently I was coming towards the end of my time with this coaching program and its support that was supposed to be for me. Now, there were some red flags going into this coaching program. There were some things that after I joined, right off the bat, I was like, what have I done? But overall, I would say that while I was in it, I had a mostly positive experience. Of course, there were certain day retreats or like online workshops and things that felt really culty to me as someone who really likes to look at cults specifically and kind of pick apart what is and is not cultish. There were some things happening that I was definitely like, okay, this is a little intense. And for legal reasons, I'm not going to shout out what that program was. I will say a lot of the teachings of this program were based on the book, and I'll pull it out, A Course in Miracles. And of course, after I joined, I bought this book, and Lord knows, I wish I had bought this book before I had joined. I can't get through it. I just fucking can't. It's too much. And that should have been my red flag. But with that said, that's where I started to pinpoint, after I got out of this coaching program, that's when I started to pinpoint some bulletins that are now red flags that I really want to pay attention to and share. And these are also red flags that I saw, well, copied by Teal Swan in a more extreme way. Now, what I will say is, when I left this coaching program, I was really committed to staying, but I just didn't have the funds left. And this program promised that or at least said that this would help me make money in my business. And of course, after a year of working with them, I never saw that change in my business, really. I structured my business differently. I started making less videos because I was working on all the course material. But ultimately, I have left that program feeling exploited. So I wanted to kind of talk about what is the honest grifter and what are some things that you can be aware of to kind of support you. Now, just to be clear, this is all my opinion. This is not supposed to be taken as like I know all. And of course, add other information that you feel is really important. So when I say honest grifter, what I want to just kind of point out is there are a lot of grifters out here, but some folks believe what they say and others are just saying it to get what they want. I think the honest grifter is a little bit more toxic because they truly believe what they're saying. I truly believe that Teal Swan thinks that everything that she does is ethical and right, and that she really does believe that she's making a huge difference in the world in a positive way, just as my coaching program did. But there are some things that we should all be more aware of and really like hone in on. And so I made a little list of the honest grifter. First one, they believe deeply in their authority. They believe deeply in their ability to get you from point A to point B. And it's not always easy peasy lemon squeezy, but it certainly is, I know what's keeping you captive. I can help you like nobody else can. I am the top voice here, and I allow information to be disseminated. Number 2, believes in their abilities to the extreme, perhaps to the point where they're not questioning what they're doing. Because ultimately, their authority means that their abilities are up here and we are down here, regardless of personal circumstances that might be within that person's life. So what do I mean by this? I mean, there is an air that this person has all the answers, that their life experience, including their traumas, give them the point of reference that you need, that you're missing. Teal Swan really shows these off by talking about her past traumas and talking about how these traumas shaped her to make an influence for her future, for her ability to heal others. This might be leveraged in a way that feels extra controlling, like overwhelmingly controlling, is able to give you advice that you didn't even ask for because ultimately they have the answers, and might even be implanting some self-doubt in what you do because what they do is so much better. Number 3, holds believers captive. Only I can heal you. Only I can heal you. Only I know the answers. I have been where you have been, but I got through it, and I know exactly how to get you through, unlike anyone else. Now, I totally understand that to a certain point. For me, I had a lot of trauma around being myself and being authentic to my creativity. However, that is something that I share to say this can support you. But the difference is, do you hold believers captive by saying, no one else can help you like I can? Teal Swan often does things like this. So this is a big red flag for me, and I saw it within my coaching program, even though it wasn't to necessarily the extreme. These top 3 are definitely more visualized by Teal Swan. There's a lot going on as far as her belief in her authority, her belief in her abilities to the extreme, and holding believers captive, showing them that this is the only way. This is the only way you're going to make change. And that was also super apparent in my coaching program. This is the only way you're going to expand your business. This is the only way. Now, as a art ritual practitioner, I often say that art ritual can look super different, and it's going to be super different for different folks. It's also going to feel differently for different folks. And once you start working with me, if you feel like I'm not necessary to help you hold space, that's totally fine. You don't have to work with me. You can take some of my material as far as my journaling prompts or creativity prompts and use that on your own. You don't have to work with me directly. I ask that you don't steal my content because I worked really hard putting it together. But if you can't afford to work with me anymore, that's fine. You'll be okay on your own. I'm just here to support if that's what you need and it's within your budget. Because let's face it, you might need to save your money and go to just a therapist or an art therapist. I'm not licensed to do those things, so I highly recommend you do those things as well. I will say that my coaching program didn't talk down on other modalities of support, but I will say there was this overwhelming fixation on you need to continue doing the work by staying in the program or else you'll lose all the momentum you've worked on. The 4th thing about the honest grifter, again, these last 3, people honestly believe this. People honestly believe this. And so it can be really hard to look at that and say, well, this is inauthentic, because these people are being authentic. They really do believe this. But it doesn't change the fact that some of these concepts and how they're being worded are problematic. So number 4, large price tag that they can easily justify. It's worth a large price tag. Teal Swan's, I think, retreats are $5,000 a person. I spent about a little over $5,000 in my year training. That came out to be $488 a month for me for really only group sessions and a library of information. Looking back at it, I had some money from when I was let go from my teaching position because they didn't want an art teacher anymore. So I didn't feel like it was a bad thing investing that money. Of course, now on the other side, still not making that much money a month from my program. I'm really bummed. I'm really bummed that I spent that money because ultimately I could be using that money right now. Oh well. You live and you learn. This video is so that you don't have to live it, you just learn it, right? So large price tags that are super intense. I am not comfortable putting such a price tag on what I do. And look, I don't want to yuck somebody's yum. If that's what you need to be comfortable and successful, that's super great. But as spiritual practitioners, we have to be really conscious of what is within our ideal client's abilities. And it really did hurt to have the fact that I couldn't pay anymore, I didn't have the money anymore, just kicked me out of the program. And I will say they offered me a discount of, I think it was $380 a month to rejoin. But $380 a month is still a lot when we're in a recession, and I just am not making any money or enough money to justify it through my business. I make money through my business. It's tough. We're in a recession. Struggle bus. Choo choo. Anyway, moving on to number 5. Cuts contact quickly, lack of compassion. If you watch the Teal Swan show, The Deep End, you will see how she very quickly and abruptly cuts off people who are not serving her anymore. And I will have to say, the thing that hurt the most from leaving this coaching program was the fact that even tech support would not respond after I realized that I was kicked out earlier than of the program group stuff than I thought I would be if I reached out to tech. No response. I just wanted some of the information that I had not downloaded yet. No response at all. When I asked for certain trainings quicker, because I was towards the end of my contract and I wanted to really utilize those trainings because I thought they would help me be able to stay in the program, no response at all. It was a super quick cord cut as soon as I said, I just can't afford that price tag right now. And that really hurt. I think out of everything that has happened so far, that has been the most painful thing. And it's because I was vulnerable, because this space and these people made me believe certain things, made me believe in myself. They made me feel special to a certain degree, but clap, it goes as soon as I'm not able to financially support the program. It wasn't even that I'd said I could never do this again or that I never wanted to do this again. It was just simply I couldn't justify spending more money until I started making more money, which of course was something that the program really said that was possible through the work that I would do there. And a year later, I just wasn't seeing that return. And they themselves even claimed, you're so close. You're so close. Just keep going. Just sign another year-long contract. Needless to say, not only do I not charge that much for the work that I do, I also make contracts only up to 9 months. And that is because we're making a specific commitment and I want us to have that work together. But the truth is, I don't want people to be so committed that they can't do the work without me. 9 months is a long time. And if you want to work over 9 months with me, that's great. But I'm never going to keep someone captive in a contract that's over 9 months long. And you might think to yourself, Lauren, that's still really long. Well, I have options for 3, 6, and 9 months. By 3-month increments, that way you can work with me without having to commit to a super duper long time. A year is long, especially if I'm paying $380 a month when my rent is $675. It's just a lot of money. And it's not that it's unjustifiable. It's just a little weird that there's no wiggle room. And as soon as I say, I just can't at this time, it's cord cut. So that, I think, to me, is a big red flag. If the cord is cut quickly and you are not given any more support, nobody really talks to you after that, it's just boop, you're gone. That's problematic to me, especially when we're in the business of working with sensitive people, highly sensitive folks, which is a big hallmark of the coaching program I was in, working with highly sensitive folks. So, as a highly sensitive person who is on medication for depression and anxiety, I found it incredibly problematic. I can't stress that enough. How problematic that is, that could have, if I didn't have the support that I have with the therapy and the medication that I'm on, that could have had me spiral out. And so that has become a new red flag for me, as well as something that I am not going to be doing with my business. If you work with me, I'm not going to just cut you off completely. That just seems really fucked up to me. And it seems really steeped in everything that came before. Large price tag, holds believers captive, believes in their abilities to the extreme, believes in their authority. All of that creates a toxic culture where if you're no longer paying, if you no longer have that ability, you are getting cut. And that really sucks. And then the last thing that I want to harp on, which really is everything put together. There is the final authority on the wisdom that they alone have harnessed. This kind of overlaps everything, but it comes down to this one thing. They alone are the authority of what they have harnessed. Now, one thing I will say is a lot of the art ritual that I put together, that I hold, that is through my years of experience, years of learning from other artists and things like that. So I always have a slide, or I always share on papers that I put out that this thing was inspired by other folks. That is my baby, but ultimately came from years of experience with other artists. And so I share my lineage. I share who has inspired me. Now, this is not necessarily something that I saw to the extreme in my coaching program, but we do see this in extremes with gurus and other spiritual folks like Teal Swan, as well as Osho. There is so much focus on I am the channel. I am the one. I have the answers figured out. Now, it's not that it wasn't there present, but it just wasn't as extreme as we might see in other spiritual circles with folks that are very explicit in their beliefs of I can change the world from A to B because of X, Y, and Z, right? Again, I have formulated art as ritual, but ultimately I was deeply inspired by a lot of artists. I come up with my own content, and so again, I don't like folks stealing it and repackaging it. That's really unacceptable. You can always utilize some of my stuff as inspiration for your own writing and your own stuff. But I'm not here to be a queen of copyright or say that I'm the only one who can do art ritual. Art as ritual is for anyone, but if you want to use my content, don't do that. Instead, ask for my permission or ask if you can, share some, how to not steal information, right? We don't have to get into that. That's all very specifics. I've had people steal my workshops before. I understand that can be really painful. And that copyright is incredibly important. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one thing that we need to think about is how are these people in authority expressing what they know and why it helps. So that is my thoughts. Those are my points, my 6 points for what is the honest grifter. Ultimately, it's really hard to tell who's a grifter these days because a lot of folks believe in their abilities, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if someone is trying to come to you and say, I have all the answers, this is my high price tag, I figured all this out, you can only learn this through me, cuts contact quickly as soon as you cannot pay for their their transformation, their process, whatever that might be, those are huge red flags. And that also shows a lack of, there's a lot of construction going on outside. I'm sorry if you can hear that. There goes a lot of lack of empathy, and just spiritual, what's the word? It really cuts into authentic experience. It cuts into our ability to fully support folks in spiritual spaces. But anyway, if you found this video supportive, if you know someone who's an honest grifter, comment down below. Who are they? Why? Why did they grift you, or what did they do? And if you like this content and would like me to talk more about toxic spirituality and all of that stuff, like, comment, subscribe, let me know down below your thoughts and feelings. But with that said, friends, thank you so much for being here. Links to everything I do down below. Make sure to follow me on all the platforms. I talk about this sort of stuff on there all the time. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But with that said, once again, one more, that's what this, blah, blah. Thank you for being here, folks. And remember, the honest grifters are out there, but you have the tools to get it through. Bye-bye.